herald angels sing
Glory. Nope, not doing
You're not going to do it? Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Let's Take 5. My name's Eric Martindale.
I'm Austin Luger.
And today we are talking about It's a Wonderful Life, which is the second film in our Jimmy Stewart 5. Let's Take 5 is a podcast where we look at one of the greats of cinema. We take 5 of their films. We sort of break it down, sort of talk about why they are so great. The previous film that we covered is The Philadelphia Story, but today we are talking about It's a Wonderful Life, which is the second sort of the Frank Capra masterpieces, or so they're seen. I mean, the two big ones. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and now It's a Wonderful Life, both starring Jimmy Stewart. Do you have any disagreement with that?
No.
Okay.
Well, you know what? I do.
Yeah?
It happened one night.
It happened one night. Okay, it happened one night. Okay, so
he's got 3.
He's got 3. Now, this one is the Christmas movie that a lot of people, this is the one that everyone pops in every Christmas. Is always on TV. You basically can't get away from it. It's the story about a young man who basically wanted to leave town, was never able to leave town. He always had aspirations of going on to big cities and building big buildings and making something of himself, and leaving the small town that he lived in. But circumstances out of his control continually kept him in the town, working at the family business, which was the building and loan. And so George Bailey runs the building and loan throughout most of his life, and then due to an error made by his uncle, there's some money missing, and it looks like they've been skimming from the top, and it looks like he's going to go to jail for stealing money that he didn't, and he has this moment of crisis where he thinks, oh my goodness, I've done all this, and what was it for? I've worked so hard, and I've never got mine. I've had a terrible life. Everyone would be better off if I was dead. And at that moment, he's visited by an angel, this is told to us at the very beginning of the film. He's going to show up. And through a process very much Thornton Wilder, Our Town, he sort of shows him, hey, you know what? Actually, you had a really wonderful life. What first appeared mundane was actually amazing.
Because he shows him an alternate reality where he wasn't born.
Exactly. And from there, it's very, very feel-goody. There's 3 films in my life that I can't get through without crying. This is one of them. What are the other ones?
Dr. Dolittle.
No, but it involves animals.
Bad Boys 2.
Fox and the Hound.
Really?
You can't get through that movie without crying.
I haven't since I was a kid.
Oh my God. Well, don't. Because it's not even that good. It's just tugs on the heartstrings. And the other one's Field of Dreams. Because I had an affinity from playing baseball with my dad when I was a kid. So that one will always do that to me. So I don't really watch that one all that much either. But this one I do watch every Christmas because other than showing what, with the spirit of things, what a wonderful life you actually can have and how you affect other people's lives, it's also done in a wonderfully beautifully inventive way, particularly at the time. But George Bailey is one of my favorite movie characters ever. I love George Bailey.
And that's where the heart of the film is.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously. It's called It's a Wonderful Life. You would hope that George Bailey has a wonderful life. But the film is long in a very good way.
Yeah.
The whole angel showing different universe thing happens, I don't know.
Last 20%?
Yeah.
Maybe.
2 hours in? Am I getting this wrong? Mm-hmm. That means there's 2 hours devoted to a really, really interesting character study. And it is so revealing how... Because we all just think about the last 20 minutes. That when you watch the film again, you're just completely caught up in the long story of this character's life. Starting at the very beginning when he was a kid, and he saved his brother on the ice. Mm-hmm. And he hurt his ear. Him working at the dime store. Yeah, the drugstore. All of these are so important because every life is important. And that is felt so strongly throughout the film. And it's rather amazing because what George Bailey goes through and what Jimmy Stewart conveys with, excellence that I hope I convey very well in this episode is a complicated character. He's in a Capra film. You think you know what that means, but this is a man who the whole arc of the film means he has to drive himself to suicide.
Yes.
That's where this is going. Mm-hmm. And you have to believe that. And Jimmy Stewart, very brilliantly, and this is now after he's come back from the war. Jimmy Stewart served our country and such in World War II. He came back, and it's a really interesting career after that. And this one shows the darkness of a Jimmy Stewart-esque character in a way that is so accessible because it's so sympathetic. It's a man that always has this dream. He has the luggage to put the stickers on and whatnot. He's so happy about that. He really has admiration for his town to a degree. I mean, he gets tired of his town like everyone else does. But
he loves and he helps all the people in his town. He loves
the people.
You end up watching this film, if you've seen it as much as I have. It's kind of similar to Schindler's List in this regard. How you sort of end up recognizing and knowing all the characters. All the tertiary characters become people that you know and you can immediately identify. Like Helen Heesh from Schindler's List is like Violet Bick from It's a Wonderful Life. Ernie, the cab driver. Bert, the cop.
Yeah.
Everyone. You end up getting to know all these characters throughout George's life, which you observe through the film. It's interesting you said character study because I've honestly never thought of the film as that way, but that is essentially what it is. And you have this. You feel bad for him. It's something everyone can all sympathize because it's basically about these dreams and aspirations that we all go for, we all aspire to. And how those things may always kind of get set aside, and you always think you're going to get to them one day as you get older. And the thing that always stuck with me the most is that in the night where he decides that he's going to commit suicide is on Christmas Eve, and he's got a whole family now, which he wouldn't have had if it weren't for all those inconveniences that he had. But he has this whole family in there now, and in the woman's the child's playing "Hark the Herald" on the kids are putting up tinsels. Everything's nice, but in the room is the models and buildings of architecture that he's always aspired to do. Yeah. And when he finally loses it and he comes home and he kicks that thing over, that's like very symbolic to me, and that part always gets to me. I mean, he's looking at kids he loves, and he says to his wife, "Why do we have to have all these kids? Like, just everything is just coming. It's just come crashing down." And it's
amazing that sequence is so powerful for me. And I had the fortune of seeing this in the Music Box Theater, my favorite theaters in the country. Actually, every year every December they play "It's a Wonderful Life" and "White Christmas." You can see the double feature. You can see it as one. There's a reason why it's a family tradition in Chicago. They have carolers, Santa's there. It's delightful. They have a very absolutely packed theater during that sequence, and the whole movie has been very, very vibrant. Theaters felt very good. People bring their own bells when Clarence is on screen. Some people boo at Mr. Potter, which is very delightful. But during that sequence, it was so quiet and it was so unnerving. And we're going to cover in the upcoming 3 films. Sometimes when Jimmy Stewart's characters are really unpleasant.
Yeah.
And there's not a moment in his canon, I think, that's more hard to watch than this sequence.
Because you end up liking George so much. George has a wonderful life, but it's a normal life. I mean, it's a normal story. I have to point to the time he's about to leave. So, like, he's right about to leave off to go to college or whatever, travel the world, and his father dies, so he has to take over the building. So then his brother gets to go, right? So then he's about to leave town on his wedding after he meets his wife, and then that's when the stock market crashes. So he has to stay there to save the place. His brother comes home. He comes home and he's got a wife now because his brother went to war. He was going to take over the business, and now he can't do that. So all these things sort of start happening, and then his brother ends up going to war and serving the country and winning a Medal of Honor. Like he ends up getting awarded. So like all these wonderful things, and his friend Sam Wainwright, who was trying to get him to leave, goes into like plastics or something, makes a fortune behind him, and also he was the guy that was with his wife before he was, so he's always had that sort of thing held over his head too. So he lives in a bubble where he thinks that he he's nothing. He feels ordinary. But what he's not understanding is that everything without people like him, we're nothing. He made everyone around him sort of who they are. And everyone sort of affects people that way. It's an existential sort of film, which is always going to get that way when we're talking about suicide. And it is put so, explicitly. He was going to kill himself. That was going to happen. It was
really divine intervention.
Yeah.
And, I was watching this film, and, the basic core of a story is a character wants something, they can't get something, conflict.
Yeah.
That's what the story is.
That's plot.
I can't think of another, especially a mainstream film, that has a character so explicitly say, this is what I want, and he doesn't get it.
Yeah.
At the end of the film, he doesn't, go off. Like, no one hands him a passport and says, this is your time now. He's going to stay there.
No, yes, he's going to stay there, and he's
not, like, trapped. Maybe they will take a vacation somewhere one time, but, like, he recognizes in a way that's so profound to life, and media struggles to cover this so well. It doesn't fit into the hero narrative. Is maybe when you're young, the thing you wanted the most isn't the thing you are going to want the most as you grow older.
Right.
And if you're so focused on that, you won't value what you have.
Yeah, he recognizes that it's his time's past there. Particularly when he's threatened with jail time, which is it's going to happen. When he thinks that they're confronted with it, because what happens is Lionel Barrymore plays Mr. Potter, who basically owns the whole rest of the town except for the building and loan, which basically helps the poor buy homes, which is essentially what I gathered from it. It lets people keep and own their own homes rather than living in slums that Potter creates. And Potter despises him for that. So when the uncle, who's kind of a oddball, misplaces some money, Lionel Barrymore, Mr. Potter, steals the money, so it looks like they've been embezzling money from the building and loan the day the bank examiner shows up. And when that happens, it's interesting watching how George Bailey changes, because he becomes, unlike the rest of the film, he gets really angry for like the first time. I remember he grabs his uncle and he goes, "One of us is going to jail, and it's not going to be me." It's not what you're used to seeing through the whole film. I mean, he stands up to Potter, but not like this. You start to see all those sort of desperation threads sort of arise with him in this film, and it's hard to watch because he's just an ordinary man. He didn't deserve this. You wanted these things for him, and you sort of lose hope with him in a way. It's interesting.
And Jimmy Stewart portrays this incredibly well. I mean, the way, because we always depict like Jimmy Stewart-like character as the happy, almost naive guy. Yeah. And he has that, and he recognizes that so brilliantly early in the film. And as he gets older, he is, burden is too strong of a word, he is confronted with really adult decisions. And they're really curious. And my favorite scene from the movie is actually when he decides to, I believe they're canceling their honeymoon and taking that check to distribute that money to the people who are freaking out because of the bank collapsing. And you see it's a wider shot. You see him in the bank. You see him kind of behind the teller, and everywhere is just people, just flooded with people. And this is the town. This is the town at its core and at their fear. And he is willing to sacrifice because this is what he cares about. And he's caring about these people who are not looking glamorous right now.
No,
they're looking
really
scared,
bad.
desperate, and a bit like a mob.
Yeah.
But this is what's important. And it's amazing how well Jimmy Stewart plays, because this is the whole crux of the film, right? He plays this without knowing how great that was.
Yeah.
He went home at the end of the day exhausted and penniless.
But he was happy. Yeah. But also he was happy that the building
worked.
He saved the building loan, and everyone got their money.
He did it, and the building stands, and it's incredible. And there's just a complexity that he portrays.
He was having trouble when he needed it the most. He was having trouble conveying to people how important he was. And he wasn't saying it as like he wasn't like bragging or he wasn't like, braggadocious. He was just saying like, don't you understand what the building and loan is? Don't you understand what I do for people? If you guys do this to me right now, Potter will own the whole town. Don't you see what's happening?
As the business meeting, it's incredible.
Exactly. Like you have to do this, and then even then they all take his money. They take his money, which was his wedding purse, by the way. They take it. So when he's pushed, and then later, it's later when he's pushed to the rope, you sort of see how he starts to wonder. He has like, was I worth a damn? Did I matter? Like type of thing. Or, and this is the most depressing part, is would not have everyone been better off without me?
Right, because in my way, the way he's seen this is almost a very biblical like story where there is this rising tide of almost doom upon the city. Potter is going to win. This is this cruelty in a way, not exactly cruelty, but just no one caring, no one looking out for somebody. It seems like it's damned to flood the city, and he pushes it back like 1 yard, and then they push him really hard and push that yard back. That's what it always feels like to him, and there is a point where he just feels like, why am I stopping the inevitable? Because it feels like the inevitable when it hurts that much to work that hard. And man, we can't say enough. I just wish I can just say, the first time I wish this was a video podcast. We could just like show Jimmy Stewart's face as like a montage throughout this entire film, because there is incredible sadness and defeatism, and then joy, and then he is the most life they've ever seen in a movie ever when he's with his family, and then when he's upset and when he's angry. Like it's dimensions that when you belittle Capra, you don't consider these. When you belittle old Hollywood films, you don't think of these. But these are there in a really complicated way, and Jimmy Stewart.
It's an unbelievably romantic film as well.
Oh, my God.
The love story that goes out between him and
Donna Reed.
Donna Reed is incredible, both of them, the way they play it. Donna Reed was a great actress in her own right, died fairly young. It was sad. Very talented. She's incredible in this film. But even like their love story is really important, because they're kind of what grounds them. She was there the night that his dad died, and when he had to take over the building alone, and that scene's so romantic. That's the Buffalo Soldier scene. We'll throw the lasso around the moon.
It's incredible.
It is. It's the pacing of the scene, the way the dialogue goes back and forth. I've always said that, in general, I was directing a scene up here in Chicago once, and a girl approached me about doing the scene for a showcase, and she said, let's do this scene. And it was her and someone else, and the two characters didn't have any sort of romantic chemistry. It was a good scene, but I said, I don't think this works for a showcase. And she said, why? And I said, because the scenes that are always infinitely going to be more interesting and people are going to be engaged more is if by the end of the scene you could end up falling in love with the person you're in the scene with. It doesn't even matter if that is what happens. It automatically engages us more. And that scene had that same sort of flair.
It's almost... This is the wrong words, perhaps, but it's an economy of emotions.
Yeah.
Because I now picturing the scenes where I can just do one scene for it, right? Mm-hmm. To me, the end of Casablanca. Mm-hmm. And once when the two of them are playing Falling Slowly in the music shop. Mm-hmm. Like these are these moments where within 5 minutes you feel all the emotions of those characters in a true way, not in a way that's very cheap and artificial, like very cheap romantic comedy, saying like, oh, they're going to end up together because they're the two hottest models on the screen.
Right.
That's not what's going on.
Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm sorry.
Wow, didn't see that coming. I was thinking, how lose the guy in 10 days, but sure, let's do that one.
Hey, they had to fall. They had needed a reason for them to fall in love, or did they? No, but another reason why her arc is so important is because she presupposes a thought process of this film. We always thought that it was things outside of George Bailey's control that kept him in the town. That's not entirely accurate. His love for her kept him there.
And it's common man.
And he resents her for that in some regards.
It's true.
He does. Which makes him more rounded and more fascinating. The scene when he goes over to her house after Harry's come back, and he's the war guy, but now he's got a wife, and now he knows now he's going to have to stay with the building and loan. He takes a walk over to her house, and he gets there. And he sees her, and he resents her so much because he's so in love with her.
Yeah.
And like they have this dialogue where she's so happy to see him. I mean, she's not getting she doesn't have his context, his perception of what's going on. And then when he kisses her angrily after it's over with, listen, I don't want any of this. I don't want any of this. I don't want that. I want this. And then they kiss. It's extraordinarily heartbreaking and romantic. It's allowed to be both, and it works really well, and it's resonant. So that's always a mistake I think that people make, is just to say, oh, well, George Bailey, I mean, he was always held against his control in the town. Well, that is part of it, but he also despises his own self personally for falling in love with her.
Absolutely.
That played a huge part in it.
And the reason we can talk this complexly about the character, I mean, all we have here is the film itself, and we're able to get this thanks to Jimmy Stewart's performance. Mm-hmm. Which, like we talked about when we reviewed Raging Bull back episode 3, De Niro is the character. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Stewart is this character. It is phenomenal. And, it's unfair to compare art to art, but so many, because it's such an iconic movie now, so many different shows and specials do their own It's a Wonderful Life thing, and that they just do the last 20 minutes.
Well, it's the American version of A Christmas Carol.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because if you just do the last 20 minutes, that's not the movie.
Yeah.
And this is completely unfair to call this out because it's not even trying to be that great, but the Muppets did a version of this cheaply on NBC handful of years back, and Kermit has a bad day, and then you see Life Without Kermit.
That doesn't work.
One bad day isn't the story.
It's a wonderful life.
Yeah. It's a whole life of complicated decisions and the what if and the grass always greener, and that's what it's all about.
And that's frustrating too, because the Muppet satire is usually so clever.
This was one of the disappointing ones.
Yeah.
I can speak highly about other ones of theirs.
Well, we have to talk about that because we haven't really mentioned when Clarence actually shows up.
Right, and this. So I have one question to begin for you. I don't know the answer to this. It is, and this is the problem with all sorts of supernatural stories. Mm-hmm. Does George Bailey take too long to believe Clarence?
No.
You think it's appropriate?
No.
Yeah. After my third example, I would have got it. I feel
I don't, because
I'll give you the first two. He goes on for like a couple examples.
Was there one that bothered you other than most?
Not off the top of my head, but like I do love, to contradict myself, I love how angry he is at Clarence, even though once again he jumped into the water to save Clarence. Right? Because
Yeah, he did. Well, in his head, but Clarence, that's really not what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. But he in his mind did a noble thing, but again, dismisses it immediately.
I've never thought that before. Maybe it's just because I've seen the film so many times.
It's like a thing of like,
Clarence is kind of a rustic, like bubbly dude. He's not like I think he's not angelic. There's nothing angelic about him, which I think sort of helps.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah, the argument about, because he is so restless. So like,
technically, he's not an angel yet, so he doesn't have to.
Well, he's an angel, but he's second class. He doesn't have his wings yet.
Okay.
So which is a thing. So
which is delightful.
We love Clarence. Clarence is a great guy. He goes drinking with George. He orders a flaming rum punch.
That's right.
One of my favorite scenes, and then he looks at him like he's crazy, and then one of my favorite arguments for when your friend's out of line. George leans over to Nick and says, "Hey, don't mind him. He never grew up." which
so dismissive.
Yeah, he never grew up. Well, I don't even know what that means, but that's hilarious. But you see all these examples, starting with Nick's place,
What a great place to start, by the way.
Yeah, that is. About how you sort of see, it's Pottersville. You see all the things. You see all the way George affected people's lives and how people don't really realize the true impact that a life can have. Truly, a butterfly flaps its wings, it causes a hurricane on the other side of the world.
I don't want to contradict you, but like, what's amazing about the movie to me, and what really makes me tear up at the end.
Contradict me.
I will. Is that this whole angel sequence is to teach George. George comes back a different man, but the town was always going to come to him that night.
Yes, yeah, they were.
So the town, like the people, knew the importance of his life. Maybe not the general idea, philosophy of that.
Yes,
it's that aspect that gets me of like.
But he was changed.
He didn't know.
I know, but he was changed before the people came over.
Oh, yes. That is the story. I'm saying the town knew what he didn't.
Right.
And that's what overwhelms me.
Yeah, well, that's what overwhelms me as well. That's the part where I always cry. But
the brother.
But I have one problem with this film.
Okay.
Just one problem. And again, we talk about these societal things.
Yeah.
How, in Philadelphia's story, he hit his wife, and it's played off like a joke. The apartment, they grope the girl on the elevator, that's not normal. So it's like his big thing, oh shit, your brother's dead, because you didn't save him when you were a kid because you were never there. It's like, where's Mary? Where's Mary?
Oh, yep.
She's not married.
She's a librarian.
She's a librarian and not married. Oh my god. How horrible.
You know what makes it worse? It's the last one.
That's what I'm saying. It built to that moment. I mean, I'm expecting her to be experiencing she's going
Scarface.
Fontaine went through in Les Mis. I'm expecting something terrible like that. It's she didn't get married and she's a librarian.
No, that is, it stands out.
It's weird
structurally. I mean, it is well acted. Donna Reed feels like a different person entirely.
She does.
When you see her.
They try so hard to hide her beauty too.
Oh yeah.
It's like they actually put a little scarf over her head. And
it is not the same in the slightest.
Yeah, it's goofy. Anyway, other than that,
but to kind of go back to where we were before I went off on a tangent, I love how much Jimmy Stewart is mad at Clarence.
Yeah.
This is a guy he at least in his mind thought he saved. He didn't kill himself. He's annoyed he didn't kill himself. He's wet. He's talking to this guy. Boy, I guess I'm not that wet anymore. Oh wait, I guess my ear's better. That's weird. But he's still he's so frustrated with this guy. It's such a real way of a guy who's going to kill himself an hour ago isn't just going to be chipper.
Yeah.
Right now.
That's true.
And it's so real. And Jimmy Stewart plays that he's not asking for audience sympathy in the slightest right now. As he's given a miracle to examine his own life.
One thing you thought of, or made me think of, you said that Jimmy took way too long, George took way too long to realize he's an angel, maybe? Or maybe he took too long.
That's what's going on.
The guy in the way station, or whatever that is, he knew. That guy knew that he was an angel. He had no doubts.
You think this is his first rodeo? This is his 10th angel this week.
Before I move to the final part of the film, I have to talk about Nick opening up the register and saying, and every time the bell goes off, look, I'm giving out wings. That is hilarious.
You know what? I think it's because we're talking a lot about alcohol in these past two episodes. Bars have a very easy way to become great and awful.
Yeah.
So to start with Nick's of oh, yeah, this is a good bar people hang out to.
It's supposed to be Martini's.
Shithole. Yeah, this is a disaster.
Well, it was Martini's before, and Nick was just the bartender there. He didn't own it. And that's one plot through that's not... I guess Nick's a horrible person without George Bailey there. That one's not explained as much. Because the rest of the connections are so very clear.
Yeah.
They were...
Especially, I forgot how much emotions I had towards the...
There are parts of George's life we don't see, too.
Yeah, so. The drugstore clerk. I mean, the clerk, the owner.
Mr. Gower.
Yeah. Man, I forgot how, that...
He would have poisoned the kid if he...
Yeah, because the saving of the brother is so quick and so slight, you almost, don't think it's going to happen anyway in the film. It's still a good sequence, but, this, when you see this this old man making this mistake, this horrible, horrible mistake, and the emotions going on, and
his son
crying.
just got killed in World War One.
I mean, it is so heartbreaking so early in the film, and no one talks about this sequence. I mean, to see the worst scenario of that happening in the alternate reality. Whew.
This film almost works better on like a second or third viewing because the characters so well at this point that there are parts I have trouble containing my emotion in the slightest parts, like that being one, because I know where the characters are going.
Yeah.
Like, you have a young Violet and Mary when they're both 8 years old at the drugstore, because they used to, be soda pop fountains.
Yeah.
And George is making stuff for him, and then she leans over into his trick ear, and Mary says, George Bailey, I'll love you until the day I die.
Love that.
I know.
Love that so much.
It's so good. Like, I mean, and like, again, it's hard not to kind of be emotional because you know where the arcs are going. You know where they're headed. So in the final part, the penultimate part is the whole sequence where he's seeing this alternate reality. So he goes back and he doesn't care he's going to jail now that he's gone. He's rejuvenated. He now sees how important of an impact his life actually had and how much he loves his life more than anything else. So literally, he's about to get arrested, and he doesn't care. Yeah, the banks they're short $10,000 or something. They're not going to be able to come up with it. Whatever. I'm going to jail, but it's Christmas Eve. I'm with my family. I love it. And then everyone starts ushering in because George needs help, and they just start dumping the money on him, back and forth, and just start pouring out all the people he's helped over the years, and he has all this money in front of him now, and he's now not going to go to jail because he's going to be able to pay off whatever debt that was there. And the part that always gets me, his brother shows up, he made it to the party in time, is there's an odd plot thread going on through the film with Sam Wainwright, who was a rival of George's, but it was a personal rival. Sam had no idea that this rivalry existed. And it was because it was the first, and they can't go too far with this, but it was the first man that Mary got with. Yeah. And it was George's friend. And that always wounded him. You can tell by the way, throughout the film, the way he talks about Sam. And you see him with Sam when he's a kid, and they're like buddies. Sam drops $20,000 on him that night and said, heard you were in trouble, here's $20,000. And it's like, he reads that thing and he doesn't even, he just freezes. Everyone else is, overcoming emotion, and George is, totally stoic in that moment.
Jimmy Stewart, this is the tour de force performance.
Yeah. And
the sequence.
He kisses his daughter on the head, then the bell rings. Every time a bell rings, Angel gets a rings, and they're singing Auld Lang Syne, and holy shit, man. The waterworks are fucking going.
To me, it's the brother, George Bailey.
When George shows up? Or when Harry shows up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
George Bailey, the richest man in town.
Yeah, to my brother, because that's right after the Sam Wainwright part.
Yeah, it just cheers him, and you look at this man, and he's so sincere. This is a man who went to war, came back a hero, and he's saying this is the guy. Yeah,
my brother is the man, and when he opens the book is when it's for me. He sees Clarence writes in the book. I believe it's a Bible, and it says. Thanks for the wings. P.S. Thanks for the wings. No man's poor who has friends. Or something to that effect.
Yeah.
I've seen the movie a million times. I can't remember what it is. Probably because I can't see through the tears in my eyes.
It's true.
And then the fucking bell rings on the tree. And it's literally one of the greatest endings ever. And it was a movie that earned its happy ending. It fought.
Absolutely.
It went through the weeds. It dove through the muck. It crawled. It fought to get to that point. And it's an astounding victory for the ordinary life, which is usually not a subject or a topic people are very interested in. This is a very ordinary man, but an ordinary man is extraordinary. It's one of those films that really... And Capra was probably, more than anyone else, could really do this. Cherished our existence and our time on this place together. And it's wonderful. I mean, it is really, like, truly a treat. It's a lot of hyperbole, I say this a lot. One of the finest pieces of art ever made. It's so good.
This is incredible. This is emotional and wonderful. And I love that we have these art to celebrate during the holidays that are this complex and rewarding. I just rewatched a Charlie Brown Christmas. My girlfriend hadn't seen it. That teared me up.
It's so good.
This is a bald child, sad because he's too depressed for Christmas because he doesn't feel any joy about it.
Yeah.
That's the Christmas traditional viewing. And we've now got to a very satirized time where so many Christmas movies are just very bland because it doesn't go for that really rich, emotional, relatable characterization.
Well, I think
and
people...
Jimmy Stewart as the vessel is perfect for this.
Yeah, people kind of want to crawl into their own shells now. They want to go back to... Christmas is a time for tradition.
Sure.
And I think they prefer the...
And there's value in that.
Yeah, the tried and true in that regard. I mean, I can't speak for all other holidays during that time of year, you know.
Sure, just the ones that we're familiar with.
The ones we're familiar with, but Christmas is, in my family, a time where we're talking typically about Christmas past at this point, now that I'm 29 years old. It's talking about the traditions and the history and the, you know, all truly the feeling of a magical time, you know, and what that was like being a child, because Christmas was always a big deal, and It's a Wonderful Life has endured through all of that and through all the years there.
And you know, it's amazing. I'm speculating. Please, no, I'm speculating right now. I don't know the per timeline, but this is known as one of the big flops that went on to be a classic. This bombed at the time, but thanks to good old studios, they still got a Best Picture nomination.
Yep. Should have won.
I mean, it was up against
I know
Best Picture Life, which is really good too.
I know, but
I like Wonderful Life more.
Yeah,
it's a worthy one to lose too, but Whole Life is way better. I don't know if, again, speculation. I don't know if Capra and Stewart saw the reversal. I don't know if they were alive to see it become a classic. Again, I have no idea.
I think they may have been, like, right at the cusp. I don't know. I don't want to talk about things I don't know.
But
it became a classic.
Adding to the whole story of it all, it feels like a George Bailey thing.
Well, it became a classic because it was so easy to purchase the rights to play it on TV.
Oh, it's true. It played it all the time.
And through seeing it on TV every year is why it became a classic. Not unlike Shawshank Redemption, quite frankly.
I think it kind of stopped now. I think it stopped playing on TV.
But that's where the popularity came from.
Sure.
The popularity came from, it was on TBS and TNT every weekend.
Yeah.
Like, this was playing nonstop every Christmas before it was a hit.
Yeah.
And it is incredible. It's something a little borrowed because, well, no, it would have been right around the same time. I'd be curious to see whether or not Our Town by Thornton Wilder, the play, was before or after that. I don't know. Yeah.
Way before.
Way before?
I did another podcast where I had watched old Oscar nominees, and this was out before that.
Okay, well, that was the only reason I was curious, because they do share similarities. I mean, I know that Our Town's set in very early 1900, but I wasn't sure when it was written. I'm showing my lack of relative knowledge.
I think it was earlier in the century.
Yeah,
is my
regardless.
It
is similar to that. I get a same vibe for that when I see Our Town. Just how important the ordinary person is, and how influential we are, and how much we impact each other. And Christmas for me is always a time where I think about that sort of thing. There is a spirit of Christmas that certainly exists.
Yeah.
And by that I mean the feeling I have and the camaraderie that I feel. So, I don't know. When's this podcast coming out? We're in the middle of December?
We're in the beginning of December.
We're in the beginning of December right now? Okay. Well, Merry Future Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone out there. In podcast land, it would feel inappropriate to not say that.
No.
We're talking about It's a Wonderful Life.
No, we wish everyone a very happy holidays and Merry Christmas. And that wraps it up.
That wraps it up.
This one went long, but it honestly had to.
It had to.
If we ever rambled, it's because we love it.
I love this.
It really is.
I really do.
You can catch us at a variety of different places. I have another podcast called The Immortals, and we got the scheduling wrong on past episodes, but yesterday we actually did review the Muppets movie, where I swear to God I was more positive on the Muppets than I was today. And we reviewed one of my favorite TV shows ever, Arrested Development. We do...
Our favorite shows.
Oh, yeah, you love it too. You love it so much.
I do.
Where else can we find you?
You can find me at Constant Diversion. That's my YouTube channel. Hopefully by the time you're hearing this, The Last of Us video will be out. It's Our Video Games Art is the sort of thesis type of well, that's the subject of what I did. The video should be somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 minutes long. So if you got some time to spare, you like video games at all, or you just want to hear me ramble some more, you can check me out on there.
And the podcast I mentioned a few weeks back was delayed slightly, but Ad Absurdum, the new podcast on the arttomortal.com, should be out in the beginning of December. This is where Sarah Stout from the Immortals and her two friends from law school, they take a fictional product and look at the legal ramifications of all of it. And the first episode is Minority Report, which we reviewed back on our Steven Spielberg 5. Yeah. And it is going to be a lot of fun, and you will learn a lot more about the Constitution.
I will definitely check that out.
I'm excited for it. As we're recording this, it's still in the editing process, but every new episode will come out the third day of every month, because according to them, the Third Amendment is the most worthless. I believe it's one word that you have to have a soldier live at your house.
Oh, well, we've all been there.
Every day. And for this show, you can leave a comment at thearttomortal.com. We want to hear what you think about It's a Wonderful Life. If you're shy, you can email us at letstake5@thearttomortal.com, or you can follow us on Twitter, where we'll let you know when new episodes are coming out of this and other shows on the network. That Twitter account is the Immortals Pod. I know it. We all know it. And that's it from us. I now want to rewatch the film again. Again. So I'm Austin Luger.
I'm Eric Martindale.
Catch you next time. Bye, everyone.
Merry Christmas! Bye-bye.
The fool flew all the way up here in a blizzard.
Harry, how about your Banford in New York?
Oh, I left right in the middle of it. As soon as I got Mary's telegram. Good idea, Ernie. A toast. To my big brother, George, the richest man in town. That's a Christmas present from a very dear friend of mine.
Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
That's right. That's right.
Attaboy, Clarence.